For today's double preview, we are going to be gunning down Ghouls in Forgive Me Father 2, and then knocking out Goons in Fallen Aces. Before we get started, both footages you're going to be seeing here in this video are from early access and may not represent the current version of these games. But Forgive Me Father 2 is the obvious sequel to the first game. It's still unclear at the moment we're playing either character from the end of Forgive Me Father 1, but we are in an insane asylum. But something strange is happening as monsters are trying to kill us and we find doors to other worlds and strange places. So, what's a person to do other than to pick up a gun or two and start blasting? Our gameplay is still a mix of gunplay with a few special abilities here and there. The art that kind of looks right out of a comic book, which also fits with our second game, works brilliantly, and there's some really beautiful aesthetics and environmental set pieces, at least from the early access that we played. Now, the first game, in terms of its gunplay, went for a lot of different weapons. You not only had the different primary weapons, but they also had variants that you could equip, and upgrades on top of that, along with spells and kind of like a flashlight power as well. This time things have been condensed, and I think it comes out being better as a result. Instead of having multiple upgrades for the guns, you can now choose between different variants of every one of the weapons. Your starting revolver is just basically a cannon sniper rifle that can deal massive damage but has low ammo and a low rate of fire. If you want something a little bit more reliable, you could change it into kind of a standard pistol that shoots far faster, it has more ammo, but obviously does less damage. So you're not really being able to, at least from this version of the game, upgrade for pure power. And in a response, it also means that the enemies don't feel as spongy as they were. One of the complaints I had about the first game was that it felt like the enemies became too spongy and too annoying about maybe 3/4 of the way through. From the footage you're seeing here, this is being played on the highest difficulty, and so while I am taking a lot of damage, these enemies still go down fairly quickly. One good headshot will deal with most of the major or minor threats that you see here. The spell system has been updated that you now have kind of like your own cursed book, and you'll choose 3 pages to put into said book that become the spell you cast when you consume your sanity, or your mana, that you see in the bottom of the screen. So you have freedom to decide which buffs you want to receive, and that is a really great improvement, and it cuts down, I think, on a lot of the more finicky nature of the first game. Level design is still a mix of exploration, arena fights, and trying to find upgrade tokens that you can use to unlock more pages or more weapon variants. If I had any problems with the early access version, is that the bosses still feel a little bit spongy to fight. And again, this could also be by the fact I'm playing this on highest difficulty. And I would recommend, if you get stuck at any of the bosses, you definitely want the book page that grants you damage resist and attack damage upgrade. And you may even want to replay an earlier level to go into the boss fight with full madness, as that will help out quite a lot. The other issue, I think that does stand a little bit more, is the new flashlight. The first game you had a handy dandy lantern that provided you with endless light. Now the developers were obviously inspired by Amnesia the Bunker, as you have a hand crank flashlight that is kind of annoying to use. It doesn't have any real gameplay value in terms of powers, at least not in this version. And in levels where it's really dark, it still doesn't really provide you with much light, unless you sacrifice one of your book pages for the better light passive. Still, this is only to be a far improved sequel. Gunplay feels better, and I am curious to see how far they will go with this one when it is released. So if you're looking for some Lovecraftian combat and gunplay, then definitely give this one a try. We now switch over to knocking out gangsters with Fallen Aces. We play a detective whose wit is only as sharp as his left hook. In Switchblade City, a very crime-filled place. When we are on the scoop of a century and the gangsters want us dead, We are going to have to crack this caper, well, by cracking heads along the way, or sneaking around, however you decide. This is a kind of immersive sim light style game. Each level is very deep in terms of multiple paths, secrets, resources, and more to uncover. And you can spend a lot of time just trying to find everything there is to it. As you'll go through the levels, you'll need to decide the best route you want to take to deal with the enemies based on your own playstyle. You can only have up to 3 items on you at any one time, including ammo for a weapon. You can karate chop enemies in the back with a lovely little music sting each time you do it. Now, the gunplay here and just general combat is pretty solid. It's not going to be like turning into Dark Souls or Sifu by any means, but it does get the job done. Using anything and everything around you as a weapon can turn the tables on enemies, as in a lot of cases you will be outnumbered by goons of various shapes, sizes, and weapons. Now, the levels have different objectives for you to clear, and each level feels very different in terms of its approach and structure. Level 2 takes place on a massive dock, and is by far the largest level in the game, while later levels kind of turn into pretty much a sandbox for you to figure out how you want to best approach it, and beat up or hide from as many enemies as you want. Now, if you're hoping for like meta progression or upgrades like our first game, Fallen Aces, at least in what we played, doesn't have it. When you start a level, your stats and whatever gear you have are reset, and you'll have to once again make do with whatever you can find. Once again, the footage that you're seeing is going to be played on the highest difficulty of this game, and I would say at least at this moment it is on the easier side. The developer has already talked about having a higher difficulty option for people who want it. But this one looks very impressive, not only from the gameplay, but the fantastic use of kind of the comic pop art style, especially with the cutscenes. And like our first game, I am very curious to see where this caper is going to lead in the later episodes. So, if you're looking for more comic book style action, this time with a 1930s feel to it, then definitely give this game a play. And with that, we're going to wrap up this double preview here. Both games were played with retail keys. Well, if you let me play your game for a future stream and showcase, please reach out. And with that said, everyone, get back to busting up some goons or shooting some ghouls on your own time. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.